Call to order the zoning board of appeals, Thursday, June 27th, 2024, at 5:34 in the common council chambers. Please call the roll.
Mike Braswell.
Present.
Don Reed is excused, right? Yeah. Stephanie is not here. She is also excused. Kevin Thomas.
Here.
Paul is excused. Amanda Henderson.
Here.
Chris Porterfeld.
Here.
Number 2, approval of the minutes from the Thursday, May 23rd, 2024 meeting. Make a motion to approve.
So moved.
No, just, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Kevin, you weren't here last time, correct?
I was not.
Okay,
Oh,
so you'll
sustain.
abstain?
You would, yeah. All right, number 3, zoning special exception petition for construction of 8-foot tall fence located at 4199 South 21st Street, submitted by Jim and Don O'Boyle. Owners, tax key is listed.
So this is for there's already a fence present on the site. It's a 6-foot fence. The variance is for an addition to the 6-foot fence to make it an 8-foot fence. Struggled a little bit with getting that wording just right, but what we're looking at here, the property is zoned single family, R1. Fences in all residential districts are restricted to a height of 6 feet or less. They are allowed to be solid. This is a solid 6-foot fence. The request before us is the applicant is seeking to add lattice to the existing 6-foot solid fence. The reason that the applicant gave was that their lot is approximately 5 feet below grade, and a 6-foot privacy fence was not providing sufficient screening. There is a bit of recent precedence for this request. A year ago, in June 2023, the Zoning Board of Appeals denied a request for an 8-foot fence that also cited grade difference as their reasoning. The minutes stated that the denial was related to concern about setting a precedence and also feelings about exceptional circumstances not being met. Thus far, we have received 3 letters of support from adjacent neighbors. I have not received any letters of not support from adjacent neighbors. Since I mentioned the Zoning Board of Appeals last time, I figured it would be prudent to show what was happening there so we can kind of compare the two a little more easily. Looking back at this one was at 3653 South 52nd Street. Specifically, what they were looking to do was to install a fence on a portion of their property to screen from one of their 2 neighbors on the south side. The requested fence variance was also 8 feet, same as what's before us today. They wanted to construct it to prevent being able to see the neighbor's property. As we can see here that there is also the grade difference, which is being cited here as well. Staff at that time recommended denial, and the Zoning Board of Appeals also voted unanimously to deny that. Comparing the 2 properties, so on the left, we have the June 2023 property. So between the home and the garage, which is the closest property, or the closest structure on the neighbor's property, which both are shown in the photo, there's about 20 feet between the structures. There's a 4 feet of grade change, which is a 20% slope between the 2 properties. On the right, we have the property that is appearing before us today, the applicant. There's about 220 feet between these structures. On the aerial photo on the right, the applicant is on the right and their neighbor behind them is on the left. There's about 220 feet between the 2 homes and 8 feet of grade change between the homes. which is about a 3% slope, which is a fairly mild slope overall. So in total, the staff recommends denial of the variance request to modify the fence, noting that a more severe slope was present at the application a year ago, and that was denied. And per precedence, staff recommends denial. The applicant provided a letter that they asked that I read into the minutes, so I'm going to do that now. Dear members of the zoning board, we are writing to seek a zoning variance to add an additional 20 to 24 inches of lattice to our current fence for our single-family home at 4199 South 121 Street, Greenfield, Wisconsin. Currently, we have partially installed additional lattice as our home is below grade, and the original fence did not provide much privacy. We respectfully request to add up to 2 additional feet, being that of 1/4 inch thick lattice. Please note that we have reached out to our neighbors about our fence variance. We wish to be considerate in reaching out for their opinion, approval, and support. We have received support from our adjacent neighbors, some who have signed letters of support, which I've provided. For exceptional circumstances, our lot line is approximately 5 feet below grade. Our home sits lower than the home adjacent from ours. Spending much of our time in our backyard, we wish to put up a wooden privacy fence. Once the fence was installed, we found it didn't provide much privacy as the adjacent home is on higher ground. Preservation of intent. Current 6-foot privacy fence would result in additional 20 to 24 inches of 1/4 inch thick lattice. We used lattice as we did not want solid fencing and wished for it to look decorative and tasteful. By adding the lattice, it provided that additional privacy we're hoping for. Preservation of property rights. We are tucked away in the farthest corner of Healing Heights neighborhood, and the fence is not very visible to the rest of the neighborhood. Special circumstances request. If zoning board members are in agreement to allow the additional lattice of the current fence, we will remove the additional lattice in advance of the exchange of hand property ownership should we move from this property. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration. Kind regards, Jim and Dawn Boyle. O'Boyle.
If you want to come up, I got a couple questions. The lattice that is in the picture now, that's already up, I take it? It's already, so you've already put it up, okay.
So that made it 8 feet?
Yeah,
It's
right.
over 6 feet.
So it was 6 feet, yeah, then we put it on, it's kind of a slope, so it actually, as you see on the left side, that's actually lower than,
Well, just out of curiosity, why didn't you just put up additional lattice and now you're applying for a variance? Did someone report you, or did a building inspector see what you had, or?
Yeah, how did it determine to come in front of the zoning board of appeals?
So the applicant before us today applied for a fence permit that did not include the lattice. One of our building inspectors went out there, saw the fence with the lattice.
Okay.
That's how we got there today.
Okay, so the fence itself, so when was it installed, right? And
yeah, what we were told, we did have someone from the city had contacted us. The 6-foot fence had been there for probably 4 or 5 years already.
Okay.
And then it was just recently we decided to do the lattice. The pine trees are dying, and you can kind of see through that. We had a hot tub in our yard. We're always outside, but what he told us is that they are going through outstanding permits that were never closed. So that fence has been there for years. And then a year ago too, we added some of the lattice, and the lattice is only on, out of 12 of those panels, it's on 8 of those panels. So it's really thin lattice. It's like, actually, it's held up by staples. So even when we put it up, we were just gonna put a couple, just like, between the houses, because you can kind of, I'd say probably from my back in the yard, you can see like maybe 50% of the bottom of the house and up. So we thought, well, because the fence sits a little bit lower right there, it really didn't provide that privacy we were hoping for. So we really didn't think so much, putting just that little bit of the lattice. We didn't know lattice was considered that you couldn't put up. So that's why we had done that, and we contacted the neighbors, and everyone, they said they were okay with that before we put it up. So, so that's kind of how that all went about. And we did actually, because our older man walks through the neighborhood quite a bit, him and his wife. So my husband had talked to him too. We thought, how does he feel about it? He said he didn't have any problem with it at all. He was a little surprised. He said that he thought that someone would come back 4 or 5 years. He was kind of surprised that the permit was never closed.
Right.
on that, and why someone would, come back to pursue it, kind of, is what he said. He did say businesses, gas stations have very high fences, but I realize that those are businesses. That's
Those are
different.
commercial,
That's a
yeah,
different story. Right.
So that was Alderman Kastner, I'm assuming, right?
Kastner. Yeah, Carl Kastner.
In the interest of disclosure for the board and any public that are watching, I'm actually the affected neighbor behind the
Yeah.
lawn.
Okay.
In just like a random, it's just how it works. And I checked with Gina, and she checked with the city clerk to see if there was any need for me to recuse, and they determined that there was not. I already have signed off on a letter of support for this, what seems to me to be a decorative function. I can say that I can no longer see from my kitchen into theirs since the lattice is up. And so if I'm out for a late night snack, I don't have to wonder, are they up? I can just go in the kitchen in my jammies. So anyway, I just wonder if there's a way, this board exists to think about extenuating circumstances. Obviously, we don't want to set a precedence for solid 8-foot fences throughout our city, but this is a solid 6-foot fence with some personal decoration on the side of the homeowner. I'm wondering.
Still an 8-foot fence.
Well, I'm curious if there is a definition of what a fence is in the city's eyes.
Yeah, is there it's part of the work? No, it's fine. Yeah, how do they define? Or do they consider this an extension, or?
Now, do you live right next door?
So there was a picture of a trampoline in one of the photos. That's my daughter's trampoline.
I'm wondering about the person that lives right next door where the fence abuts their property. Is that yours?
Okay, so I am 4200 here.
Oh, okay, so wait, on 122nd, are you?
Correct.
And this is 121st.
Right, so the fence divides our property line.
In the back, right? It's only that back fence, right? It's not like all the way around or anything.
No, it's just the back fence.
Just
and
the
it's
back
and it's
fence,
yeah, it's
right.
not on a
Okay.
corner lot, and it's actually kind of tucked away. Our neighborhood, Helene Heights, is even where we are, we're kind of like in the back. Behind 122nd is all wooded area, so they don't, you can't go any farther than that. Basically, any person going even into our neighborhood, you're basically living there, or you're lost. I see a lot of cars come in and they turn around and they leave. So I'm concerned that someone would, see the fence or wanting to.
Can you see it from the front?
No, there's a lot of trees in our yard,
saw it.
even in the backyard. What was that?
I saw it.
Oh, did you drive by or something?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
And see, that's when I'm facing their house, let's say the house is right here and then the neighbor to this side, I could see the fence.
That's not the fence in question, though, is it?
It's got lattice on it also.
It's just the back fence. Well, I don't know.
So do you have lattice, excuse me, on your side fence as well?
We have like 2 panels that has some lattice over there. That house over there, that house had actually been owned by somebody a few years ago. They sold the house, they moved out of state. That house had become a rental, they rented it out. And we had a lot of really odd people living in that house, renters, and some that I heard that had some illegal activity going on in there. And they also had cameras coming out of the houses. Between the houses are the bedrooms. There were cameras coming out on the bed, of the house all along that side. So where the bedrooms are, we put just those 2 up there because then, just to kind of avoid that situation. Because that house is really high up. And then their windows are, kind of coming down onto ours. So that was kind of more of like, not even just privacy, more of a concern that they had cameras
Is their
outside.
renter still there, or what's
Those
this
people,
current status?
those particular people have moved. That house had been sold. Someone else had purchased it.
So the current resident lives there, is what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
There's the current resident who are the owner of the home, that's their primary residence, right? They live there?
Lives there right now.
Now,
Yep,
currently.
exactly. Right. The person who had owned it years ago, it was on, they moved out and they use it for rental.
Sure, okay.
And there were probably an exchange of 3 different families and people that had come in and out of there. But, there was just some very interesting people who they rented that out to.
Yeah, I was unaware that it was on the back of your property, because when I went by it, I saw the one on the side.
Yeah, there's 2 panels right there. We did the same thing, but
what's
yeah,
more than
and that
2
was,
panels?
yeah, just, right.
On the screen, I did pull up the definition of what a solid fence is this is the city's code, the website.
Can you scroll up? Wasn't there something above, a fence above? It's like a decorative.
So it really fits more into that decorative part, which still is defined as a fence.
A decorative fence is generally, like when we think front yard fences back a couple meetings ago, that's generally what it's referring to is the openness is an important, because it's 75% open for a decorative fence.
Right. Well, I mean, either way, it's a structure that is a barrier or is used as a boundary or means of protection or confinement, so. I would say lattice probably covers that, or equals that.
The lattice would cover what?
The lattice would fall under that definition of
Of a
fence.
75% open?
Well, no, I'm thinking of that top sentence there. Decorative, includes gate. I still I think it's defined as a fence. I don't know. Anybody have any other opinions, but.
Well, I think it's still a fence. And I know about cameras. My neighbor's got a camera pointed right at my pool.
Oh, I know everybody has cameras these days. I have cameras. You kind of have to have cameras these days with.
When I talked to the police department, there's nothing I can do about it.
How many, on that side, how many lattice are there? How many sections? You said 2, right? Is that inaccurate? Is it 2 or is it more than 2?
I think it's just 2, because it's just that little spot, right, it's like right in the, between the houses, yeah.
But when the inspector went out, right, was a question of only the rear fence and not the side? He didn't indicate anything on the side?
It's all the fence, like
Any fences on this property is what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any thing that falls under special circumstances. If upon sale of the property, you know, to remove it. You know, the neighbors are all in agreement. It is kind of tucked away into the back.
Yeah, again, just speaking to my view at 4200, which is the one that shares this back fence, the neighbor, let's see, I guess it's immediately to my south, also has a 6-foot fence, but because of the grade, where their 6-foot fence meets the O'Boyle 6-foot fence, it's like a several-foot drop. And actually, this lattice makes it an even sort of eye line across the property. And again, you know, we don't want to set any kind of precedent, but
Well, we don't, that's what I'm thinking, you know, we just denied that one. Are they gonna come back and say, well, look what you did here?
I guess my question is lattice considered decorative, or is it included in the size of a solid fence?
By the definition shown, I would argue that the lattice is part of the fence.
Yeah, I would think it's a fence also.
Yeah.
So how did you get in 2023, 20% slope versus a 3% slope? If he's indicating what is an 8-foot
the
grade change?
Yeah, so I had someone in engineering help me with that because math, and I wanted to make sure it was done right. So Craig Scala in engineering helped me calculate it. Basically, the reason why it's such a
Distance,
the
maybe?
distance is really the big difference here is that there's an 8-foot grade change, but because it's over such a significant amount of distance, the slope isn't as significant as it was last time.
Which structures are you referring to? Are you
So-
referring to,
So when we were calculating it for the current, where's my mouse? There it is. When we were looking at the current applicant, we measured from the outmost portion of their property. This is a patio, so we went to the closest portion of this structure. This is about 220. And then for this property, because they were noting the garage closeness as well as the rest of the property, we measured from this part of the house to this part of the garage here. And then he did math and told me that these were the slopes.
right, yeah, I can understand that. Did we get any we didn't get any letters of objection, right? Do you know if we got any for the other fence for the June 2023?
Mike,
objection
that's a great question that I do not know the answer to.
or
That was like my first week here.
any feedback from the, yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I don't believe we did. I have the paperwork from that meeting. And there's nothing in it about anyone besides the homeowner submitting anything.
So the neighbor that, you know, we can see the fence from the street, the neighbor, they gave a letter of approval also?
Oh,
Previous rental
On
property.
121st Street, yeah.
okay. Oh, the one that, I have the one from the one side, on the right side. I didn't get one from the left because I very rarely see her. It's a single lady who lives there, so I never really see her. It was already there when she moved in, so. And there's also some arborvitae that go across that, but they're starting to break down. So I'm not even sure if she's even aware of that there being there.
I don't know if I agree with the lattice being in the front or visible from the front, the back. I mean,
Yeah, actually, a lot of people in the
That's
neighborhood.
the fence I thought they were talking about. I didn't realize they were talking about the one in the back, because I could
Right.
see the fence on the side.
yeah.
And overall, my concern here really is the precedence thing, where it's like, this is a fence, by definition, semantics taken into account, this is a fence. And if we approve a total of an 8-foot tall fence, we don't have a leg to stand on. If anyone comes back and says, I want an 8-foot fence, we've approved one. And we didn't approve one that had a greater slope.
We'll-
So how would we
Yeah, we'll have
justify,
all sorts of people in here.
unless we're okay with setting a precedent that people across the city can have an 8-foot fence? I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah, or just take under, consideration or circumstance of the situation, case by case situation.
Is there something here that you feel like would be extenuating circumstances that would give us, I mean, even looking at the June 2023 one?
I don't see how the June 2023 one's any different than this one.
The June 2023, the slopes are different. We were lower grade, they were higher grade. I think if they were higher and they put a fence on their side, that would be even much higher, then provide even additional privacy. Since they're on higher ground already. And we were lower ground, which would make more sense given the slope.
All right, well, would it be a helpful exercise for us as a board to go through the code and the guidelines that need to sort of, guide us as we make a decision?
Yeah, Gina, you just had the definition up only? Yeah, sure. I don't, did
Well,
you
there's
bring
the
it back down? Do you still have, you don't have it up anymore? I just have it on my. Oh, okay.
Gina, in another window, would you mind pulling up the ordinances? It's 21.09. Yeah, perfect. 21.09.0209. And those are sort of the guidelines that this board needs to decide things under. 1090209? Correct.
Right there, right findings? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Just wondering if maybe we should deliberate through these things. So the exceptional circumstances would be the grade. D, it sounds like all parties, both the applicant and surrounding neighbors, are in support.
Except for the one next door to her. She didn't sign no letter.
I didn't ask her to. I didn't approach her. I can reach out to her. I was told that mainly the person behind would be most crucial.
And the house, you said didn't have the lattice when you bought it, right? That was, or did it? For a length of time, it didn't have the lattice. You added that, correct?
Correct.
I'm questioning right now self-imposed hardship in letter C. Purchasing the house knowing this is what it is, this is what I can see, this is what I can't see, to me would fall under self-imposed hardship. And it specifically says that's not grounds for special exception.
Gina, do you know if there's anything in city code about decorations on fences? If there's anything on the books about anything, whether it's Christmas lights or fake foliage or anything topping fences?
Was that gonna matter? Because, I mean, I think we've established that that piece is extension of the fence.
Yeah, perhaps.
Basically, the lattice is up is what I use like for a trellis. It's like really super thin. So I guess I don't like fencing, but it's really thin and
Yeah, but it's an
held up by
extension
a.
of the fence. You're using it as an extension of the fence. I mean, simple as that.
And a permanent extension of the fence.
Correct.
It's attached. It's
Yeah.
not like a Christmas light that you're putting up and down.
Down.
It's not adding
Correct.
an additional 2 feet of height.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
This would probably be as close as I could get in terms of how we determine what fence height is.
Okay.
So if there was something permanently affixed to a section of fence.
Sorry, could you bring that definition back one more time? Thank you. Yeah. So the height of a fence shall be determined by measuring the vertical distance from the highest immediately adjoining grade to the top of each section. So it's the ground that is immediately under the fence post, not a foot or two away from the fence post. Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense, and I understand having that definition and making sure it's applied as consistently as possible.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, in just my personal experience with this fence in question, is that as I mow the lawn up against the fence, and I get that the grade from house to house is, you know, a small slope, but that particular thing, you know, I really got to fight the lawnmower to get it up there because it gets pretty steep. And so if you're 5 feet away from the fence in my yard, the 6-foot fence becomes a 4-foot fence.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we should take grade or adjoining properties that are higher or lower from one another. I mean,
6 foot, 6 foot.
6 foot is 6 foot.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the request.
Got a second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Mike Braswell,
Aye.
Kevin Thomas,
Aye.
Amanda Henderson,
Aye.
Chris Porterfield.
Nay.
Motion to deny passes on a 3-1 roll call vote.
So, yeah, I think you'll, just to be clear, it was denied, so you'll have to work with staff to, I don't know what the expectations are. I think it needs to probably come down or, yeah. All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
You know, there's a natural